Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Board of Finance regular meeting for December 14th, 2023. I'm calling the meeting to order at 7:05. If you would rise and join me at the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. Tonight, I ask that you take a moment to think about Paul Brown from our IT department, who lost his mother-in-law, Janet Jackson, on Monday night, and a moment to remember Lorena Capone, the mother of Trumbull Police Department Officer Rob Capone, who passed away last night after a long illness. I know Rob. We grew up together, and his mom was awesome. She always offered us a place to hang out, hugs, and food at the ready. So please keep them in your thoughts. And lastly, today, in memory of the 26 victims of Sandy Hook, including Trumbull's own Mary Sherlock. Thank you. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated. Thank you. At this time, we welcome public comment. If you'd like to make comment this evening to anything on our agenda, kindly come to the podium and just state your name and address.
Hi, good evening. Bob Gerbert, 64 Mount Pleasant Drive. I'd like to speak about the pending motion for the turf field appropriation over at Indian Ledge, and I'd like to, ask for your endorsement for that turf field. I think it's an important piece that we could add to Trumbull. I'm a baseball dad. I have twin boys that are 9. They play in Trumbull Little League. They play in travel programs in town. One of the things that I've learned to appreciate here is the strength of our athletic program for our kids, going from youngsters from 4 or 5 years old all the way through high school. We have an abundance of great facilities at our high school, turf fields for football, for soccer, great baseball field. Outside of town, elsewhere in town, there's lacking facilities. And I know particularly at Indian Ledge, it does have a turf field used for soccer, lacrosse. We put a new parking lot in there a couple years ago, new playground, water park, BMX park got some attention. But if you look at that baseball, softball field that's way in the back, there's lights there that don't work, haven't worked for some time. The baseball field itself, there's no irrigation. It's a nasty clay infield, no grass. Takes a beating. In the summertime when it's dry and there's no rain, turns into concrete. When it does rain and it pours, turns into a swamp. I understand that this would be a multi-purpose field, including baseball and other sports, soccer, lacrosse, what have you. I think it would be a valuable investment for our children. And I think that's something that goes beyond party lines that both sides can agree on. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to make public comment?
Good evening, Felix Reyes, 5 Bailey Street. I'm here also in support of the, I guess it's the bond package that we're voting on for the capital improvements for the multi-use facility at Indian Ledge Park. I am a father of 3 children in the Trumbull school system, and I'm also part owner of Velocity Softball. And though I coach softball and that's what I do, I'm an advocate for all youth sports. So I think increasing our amenities is something that is why people choose Trumbull. And one of the things the gentleman said beforehand is that what we suffer from is if it drizzles just a little bit, that entire day and just about 95% of our fields are out of commission. And we've been really experiencing that hardship this spring, this fall. About half or more of our games get canceled if it rains a little bit. So when you're adding these amenities, it's going to help our kids stay more active and not have to stay home every time it rains. or have to cancel a game. So I'm here in support of that. I know there's many things we can be supporting. There's things, from the north to the south of the town that need improvements, but investing in our athletic fields, I look at them as classrooms. It's where kids grow up. It's where they get the social skills, and making sure that they stay on the safe playing field. I think it's vitally important, and should be looked at as any type of infrastructure like a school or school facilities. So I agree. The high schools are well invested in, and I think it starts to trickle down with much less investment as you get into the youth sports. So I think this bond package that's up for vote. I encourage you to vote in favor of it to have these fields improved. Thank you.
Thank you.
P.T. Martino, 230 Toshua Road. I'm also here in support of the bond package. I think the appeal to many of you here could be revenue. Obviously, my kids play travel sports. We travel all around New England, and we spend a lot of money when we go to these other places. And to have a turf field and a turf lighted field that could bring in tournaments and various play is good for the business of the town, and obviously will drive revenue. And also, just on another note of equality, the younger girls of the town don't have a lighted softball field, so this would obviously benefit them as well. Just hopefully you guys will consider this. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi there.
Rodney Arganese, 23 Glenbrook Road. Both of my parents, along with all of my aunts, uncles, cousins, siblings, as well as my wife, both her sisters and their husbands all attended Trumbull Public Schools. My grandfather, Richard Donato, was the principal of Hillcrest Junior High School, and my uncle, William Crooks, Bill Crooks, was actually on the business administrator for Trumbull Board of Ed for almost 40 years, and then served as the chair of this very committee for a couple consecutive terms. Like most of you tonight here, I wear many hats within our community. I'm the teacher at both Trumbull High School and at Hillcrest Middle School. I'm the varsity lacrosse boys coach at Trumbull High School, and I'm a director and board member of Trumbull Youth Lacrosse. My most important role, however, is I'm a father and an uncle to future residents and students of Trumbull Public Schools. I'll be wearing all of those hats as I speak with you right now. Trumbull is truly the definition of a community, which baffles me on a daily basis given our size. For some of us who don't know this, we are one of the largest towns in the state, and Trumbull High School is the 5th largest high school in the state. And so the question is, how can a town this large feel so small and connected? But really, it's why. Everyone in this room who have had, or will have a child in Trumbull knows very well what attracted them to or what has kept them in our town. Our school system is by and far the greatest asset this town has to offer. Our educational system is the core of this town's identity and culture, and our athletic programs are the bridge that connect our schools with the rest of our community. McDougal Stadium embodies that identity and culture. It is in many ways the epicenter of our community. I'm aware there are many items tonight on the docket that are worthy of funds. However, by not visiting and considering the McDougal Stadium project, or half-heartedly funding it, would mean openly and publicly ignoring an incredible opportunity to invest in our town's most valuable asset. When my uncle, Bill Crooks, passed away, he, in lieu of flowers, had all of his family members and friends donate money directly to Trumbull High Athletics. This was a man who served his community for almost 40 years, and the day he passed, asked his friends and family to invest their money into our educational programs and athletic facilities. He knew where the value in this town truly lied then, and this is still true today. For this reason, I'm here wearing my many hats to ask that you fully fund the proposal for the project at McDougal Stadium. As someone embedded in the educational, athletic, and overall Trumbull community, I speak on behalf of the many people who were unable to make it tonight, most of whom are currently at one of our schools right now, supporting their children, and the many others who are involved with the educational activities that extend well beyond the classroom. We ask that you, as elected officials representing our town, invest in our most prized asset tonight and show our community that you value what the citizens of Trumbull value most by approving the proposed funds to ensure a thorough and complete renovation to McDougal Stadium this upcoming year. Thank you.
Just so everybody's aware, we're aware also that tonight is the football team's banquet, their year-end banquet, so that they're not represented here in this room tonight, but we are aware about that as well. Would anybody else like to speak for public comments? Anyone at all? Okay.
Hello, my name's Kelly Metzger, so I actually don't live in Trumbull anymore, but I am the varsity girls lacrosse coach at Trumbull High School. But I did grow up in Trumbull. I went to all the schools.
Just for 1 second.
Yeah.
I'm okay if everybody's okay. Typically, our rules are that you're a resident of town. Are you
right.
okay? Everybody's okay? Okay.
Okay, thank you guys. So I am also here in support of the renovation of McDougal Stadium. I think that athletics is a huge draw for kids to come to Trumbull High School. I mean, it's the reason why I came back to Trumbull High. And it's just something that I grew up doing, and I know that it's so important to have the quality of like a great stadium. I think that it just overall improves everybody's experience in athletics. I honestly don't have much to say, but I mean, athletics is the reason why I came back, and I fully support, the renovation at McDougal. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that Mr. King is in the room, and he would tell everybody in the room that there's roughly 1,600 of the 2,200 students at Trumbull High School participate in the athletic programs. So, hi.
Hi, good evening. My name is Elizabeth Capobianco. I also do not live in Trumbull, but I am a graduate of Trumbull High as well. I currently am a math teacher at Trumbull High. I've been there about 14 years. I started at Hillcrest, and I am a field hockey coach right now, the varsity coach, and I'm in favor of the McDougal program. People have mentioned lots of sports, not field hockey yet, but we play on that field as well, so we are very invested. I am also a Special Olympics coach here for the town of Trumbull. I coach Trumbull Special Olympics, and we use that track as well, and it would benefit that program as well. So please consider supporting this. Thank you.
Anyone else wish to speak? I got that one. I got it. Anyone else? Okay. I'm going to close public comments at 7:20, and we'll move on in our agenda. This evening, Marty Isaac is not with us this evening. Vin DeGennaro will be voting in his place tonight. Also, Mark Mascola and Christine El Iris are not present for the meeting. You good with that, Phyllis? Okay. Our first piece of business with the new year, first I want to welcome Dave Galla and Rosemary Seaman to their first meetings. Welcome aboard, to the board, and hopefully you enjoy your time with us. We have to start with election of officers. Vin?
I'd like to make a motion to nominate the following people as officers. Laney McHugh as chairman, Paul Timpanelli as vice chairman, and Dave Galla as secretary.
Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. All in favor of the slate of officers as proposed? Any abstentions? Okay, 6-0. You sure? Nobody else wants a job? Come on. Before we go to our town treasurer's report, I do want to make a quick recognition. a certificate of recognition presented to our finance department for receiving the award of financial reporting achievement for the fiscal year 2022 on this 14th day of December. Look, they even left the space for me to sign it. Maria, I just wanted to acknowledge that your department had been awarded that recognition, and I wanted to extend a personal thank you for anybody who doesn't know. Maria Pyrus is our Director of Finance, and she spends long hours. You will often find hers as one of the last cars in the parking lot in here early in the morning, and she has tolerated all of my questions over the years. She, I think, maybe twice has rolled her eyes at me in the last, 6 or 7 years, which I probably deserved, and I didn't have any problem with that. But I wanted to say thank you for all of your hard work, and I have learned so much and appreciate the ability to come to you with any questions and to do that. So thank you. And I have a certificate for you for this evening.
Yep, come on.
Thank you. Just want to make it clear that Maria's here representing her staff as well, because it does take everyone to run that finance department. We thank all of you.
All right. Moving on to the town treasurer's report. I don't see Anthony Musto, but the report is in your packet this evening. Does anybody have any comments or questions? Scott, is there anything on the report?
Just that I think we need to have them updated that the expected revenue is 1.7 million.
Update expected to 1.7. Okay. I will send him a note on that. And then moving on, the next piece of business to start our new board year is the review of rules and procedure. It's the document that follows the treasurer's report. It discusses our Robert's rules, our regular monthly meeting, how we're scheduled. Does anybody have any questions or comments? Attorney Shopek, do I need to change the number 9 where, I'm sorry, item 8, the financial accounting controls analyst? Do you want it to say internal auditor as well?
I think it would be probably a good idea. Since the position in the charter is it says internal auditor.
Okay.
I think I'm told the budget has the other title.
The
so
title is
the other
HR
title.
department.
So just for clarification, yeah.
Okay. So first, can I have a motion to accept our rules and procedures as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, Dave. Thank you, Paul. Yes, a motion to amend the title of the financial accounting and controls analyst to include / internal auditor, or in parentheses. And a second? Thanks, Vin. Okay. That would carry through also to item 9 as well. So wherever it says financial accounting controls analyst, we'll add in parenthesis internal auditor. All in favor of the rules as amended? Okay, passes 6-0. There's nobody to abstain or say no. Moving on to the next page, it's our Board of Finance interdepartment transfers policy and procedures. This defines that Maria can make all small up to $2,500 per transfer without prior approval, and then brings them to us at the end. A motion to accept the interdepartmental transfers policy and procedures. Scott, thanks, Paul. All in favor signify by saying aye. Passes 6-0. And following that page, is the tentative meeting schedule for our regular meetings. We typically meet on the second Thursday of the month at 7 p.m. They can be held in person or virtually. We're hoping that soon we'll have TriCasters installed or the equipment installed here to be able to do hybrid meetings as well. The dates are here. I don't see any that are outliers. Can I have a motion to accept the meeting dates as presented? Thanks, Paul. Second, Scott.
Madam Chair,
Yep.
just, are you going to put a tentative date in to vote on the budget?
The tentative date to set the mill rate is in there, and then, Phyllis, do you have those other dates? We have the discussion items at the end to talk about our budget schedule, and then we would adjust from there. I believe that the tentative date, yeah, but the date to submit the approved budget, our second session, if needing, would be the 28th, and our vote for the budget would be on March 26th, that Tuesday. Does that need to be in our meeting dates, or can it go in the schedule at the end?
I guess the purpose of putting in the meeting dates is that if you wanted to add something to the agenda on the night of the budget vote,
Okay.
it would be considered a special meeting.
Then could I have a motion to amend the meeting schedule to include Tuesday, March 26th as our voting session for the budget? Thanks, Scott, and thanks, Dave. It's Tuesday, March 26th, because that backed out enough days for Maria to be able to, she gets a week to be able to prepare the budget to go to town council. Right, that would be a special meeting anyway. We don't usually need that second meeting, so I don't think we need to add that to this, because that'll be on our schedule for budget hearings. Okay. All in favor of the meeting schedule as amended? Okay. All right, cruising along. Okay. Mr. Timpanelli,
Resolution 12-23-01.
can you just turn the mic on? That's okay.
Resolution -12-23-01 is a supplemental appropriation request from the general fund balance to Director of Public Works in the amount of $100,000. It's to account number 01030400, recycling services and fees, and it's to cover the costs associated with the cleanup and disposal due to illegal dumping at Old Mine Park. I move its adoption.
Thank you. Thank you, Ben. Discussion? Hi, George. How are you?
Hi, I'm great. And you?
George Estrada, the Director of Public Works, for anybody who doesn't know him.
I don't know if you have any further questions, but just to the quick overview, there had been we identified several locations where tires were illegally dumped into the rear of Old Mine Park. We worked with a contractor that was on site and situated a camera that was able to capture the next time that the perpetrators came. So they were apprehended, they were arrested, they're going through the legal process. The town, we've been working with the state's attorney's office and the investigator. The town is pursuing restitution. We don't know yet what that will be, what exactly that means, how much it will mean. We had not touched the tires, allowing the legal process to move forward. This week, I did speak with the investigator from the state's attorney's office, and he said we can remove them at this point. We don't have to leave them there until the case is completed. The next week is the next court date for the two individuals that were apprehended, and he will keep us. He will stay in contact with us to let us know how that progresses. So the $100,000 that we're requesting, we had difficulty identifying a contractor that would actually do the work because it will have to be done from the rear of Home Depot down that embankment. So it will require special equipment to basically winch that up the side of that cliff. It's not something that you can do manually. They will have to go into 40-yard containers and disposed of at a licensed facility. So from the one contractor that we were able to have come on site and assess from below the quantity and the estimates of the quantities, and we don't have a number on them, it's substantial. The budgetary number that we received from him was $70,000 to $100,000. And we won't know that until we actually collect all of them. And we need to supervise it closely because it's all going to be about how many they can get into those containers, obviously. So we need to be sure that they're weaving them in to maximize the space in those containers.
Any questions?
So did they dump from the Home Depot parking lot?
Yes.
I should know the answer. It may be a dumb question. Does that make them liable at all?
No, they arrived on the property that is Old Mine Park. We had engineering go out to locate the piles and just confirm that, and they are on the park side. They're in the park. It's such a steep embankment. They basically
Once you start it,
they
it goes.
launch.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if I read the letter correctly, you haven't checked with them if we can do the removal?
I actually had a conversation with the property owners. I have to now, it's a master lease by Home Depot, so I will reach out to them to begin the process of getting access to that area because it's the only way that we're going to be able to clean it appropriately. Otherwise, it'll be manually carrying through the park.
Right, which isn't viable. No, okay, thank you.
George, is there any detail in the proposal that you have from the contractor as to how that number is arrived at?
I
probably shouldn't have been shocked.
I do have them, and it's a pretty clear breakdown. I don't want to say much more publicly because we are going to have to bid this because it's going to be of that our purchasing policy will require us to. So that's why I'm putting a budgetary number of a range right now and see what comes back.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? If not, the motion before you is a supplemental appropriation for $100,000 from the fund balance to 01030400 522-204. All in favor? Okay, 6-0. Okay, let's clean up tires. So moving on to our bonding resolutions, is there a motion and a second to read the title of the Board of Education Capital Improvement Plan Bond Resolution in its entirety and to waive the reading of the remainder of the resolution, incorporating its full text into the minutes of this meeting? Scott, thank you, Paul. All those in favor? Resolution appropriating $5,222,000 for the Trumbull Board of Education Capital Improvement Plan for the 2024-2025 year and authorizing the issuance of $5,222,000 in bonds of the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Is there a motion and a second that the resolution be adopted as introduced? Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Scott. Okay, discussion. In your packets, you have quite a bit of backup. Dave Cody and Dr. Semmel are here this evening to talk to the Board of Education numbers.
Maria, I just didn't see it. What's our general fund at?
It's projected to be $32 million.
Oh, it will be.
And that's the 15.6, correct?
information and address that, or? Okay.
Oh, hi, Keisha. Welcome back. They do okay so far? Okay. All right. Do you want to give us a quick overview of the bond request?
Yes, good evening, everyone. Thank you for having me here tonight. We are asking for this appropriation for, I think, 3 projects. Made the final list. As everybody knows, McDougal Stadium to install a new artificial turf field, a new track, and also put artificial turf in what's called the D areas, which are at the ends of the football field, where they have field and track events as well. There's a need at the high school, especially to control the water better. We've had a lot of problems with water getting underneath the track, lifting the track. We have constantly been out there patching it. The field itself is starting to delaminate, pull apart. The fibers are starting to pull away from the actual, I'm not sure the backing's official term. The other 2 projects being considered are the Middlebrook HVAC improvement project. This would get us the remainder of the amount that we requested last year so that we can seek the full grant and get the work underway this summer. This will be applied, a grant application will be applied for. This is a special grant program that the state has specifically to aid towns and cities with getting HVAC equipment updated. They don't normally do this type of program, but I think they were under a lot of pressure with recent events with COVID and everything. So I think it's a great opportunity for the town to get a grant to help, especially at Middlebrook, which is an older school and needs to have ventilation addressed significantly in the building. And then finally, the Booth Hill Roof Project, which we've already been approved for the grant from the state.
Now, the amount in the request before us for the turf field at Trumbull High School for McDougal Stadium is at 1.8, but my understanding is that is incorrect and it should be at 2.2. Is that correct?
Yes. We worked with the First Select Women to try and get what we could the most this year. We gave a number that we weren't sure of at the time, but then one of the consultant/contractors that's been involved with us came back with a revised price on what it would take to get what we call from the track in on the field.
That
So
includes
that
the D.
The area Ds, it also includes the track, the drainage for the field, and the new turf.
Excellent.
So it would be 2.2 million.
Okay, so we will need a motion to amend that amount. Paul?
Make that motion to amend that amount by increasing it by $400,000.
Okay. So motion by Paul, second by Vinnie, to amend the amount of the request for the line item of the Trumbull High School football field and stadium upgrades by $400,000. The total will be $2,200,000. All in favor of amending that amount? We get to vote on it afterwards. All right. Okay, so we're making that adjustment there.
And I think we were seeking another adjustment as well. The Hillcrest conceptual plan was shown on the 5-year capital plan. It was put under the grant column in the 1-year request, but it wouldn't be, that work would not be grant reimbursable. It should have been under a regular capital request of $125,000.
Okay. Is that correct, that the number in there was not included in the total of the bond? Okay. So discussion about the money for the design work to move forward with the design for Hillcrest Middle School to build as new? Yeah.
The description is also incorrect.
Correct. I was just getting that. I did send that to everyone yesterday, that was incorrect in our packets. It is not for toilet partitions. Okay. The discussion about the money for the grant funding. So just so everybody's aware of the process, in order to discuss moving forward to build a new school, they have to have some plans to come to the Board of Finance and then to the Town Council to move that project forward. That project would fall in a category that would push it to a public referendum. In order to meet the timeline, I believe you need to file the paperwork with the state for June 30th.
Correct.
And that money, because we spoke about it in October, we had a brief discussion about the timeline for that. So what has to happen is the town has to decide that we support the project in its entirety for them to go to the state for reimbursement. And I know that the First Selectman has also been working with the state to talk about the rate at which that would be reimbursed. So this is money just for the design portion. At this time, Maria, can you tell me what the balance is in the non-lapsing account?
I believe it's 751,000.
So the non-lapsing account that the Board of Ed has is 751,000. In their last financial meeting, or in their last meeting, the Board of Education voted to allocate, I believe it was 426,000 of that money towards items, correct?
435,552.
And that would leave them a balance of,
300,000.
so there's money in that account for that 125. Do you wish to discuss whether you would want to put that back in the bond, or you wish to have the design work done outside?
I'd like to have it outside. They should use the non-lapsing account. That's one point. But we did talk in October, and it based on the fact that nothing has been done, I'm going to guess because you're looking for the money now. Are we going to meet that date? Because based on our conversation, we almost had to have plans and everything ready by the beginning of next month to be able to vote and meet our timelines.
The plans won't be ready by the middle of next month. They'll be close probably by mid-February or so, but the board will have to vote on an educational spec, which is another key component of the grant application. And that programming, and along with the ed spec, will define what the project's going to be so that then they can come up with a conceptual design. But we feel we'll have it by, mid-February, early March.
So you'll have the design by mid-February, early March. So
Yeah.
that would keep you on pace to be able to go to the state by June?
Oh, yeah. But I think our goal was to be prepared for the referendum vote so that we'd have something that we could present as what we're looking to build with the money.
Okay. How does that affect our timeline as far as meetings for the town? If they spend the money from the non-lapsing account now, they make their timeline? Is that correct? I thought we were making eye contact. I'm not sure.
Well, I think it's, it gives them the money to start spending it. Otherwise, you're going to wait till the bond issue goes out. You're not going to have that money in place. You're on a very tight schedule in terms of getting a bond authorization. In order to go to referendum, you have to have the bond authorization through the Board of Finance, through the Town Council. Once the Town Council votes on it, then that's what is put to referendum.
Okay.
So at this point, it is a very tight schedule.
Okay. Any other discussion as far as the money as either in the capital plan or coming from the non-lapsing account? Vin?
I think it's a perfect use of the non-lapsing to take in and use the money from non-lapsing. That's why that account was established, for one-offs and things that I believe would help the Board of Ed, and it's, I think, a perfect use of it. So I would assume that would be a good use of it.
So if that's the case, we do not need to adjust the bond authorization further. Are there any other questions as far as the items in the bond authorization that's in front of you.
Yeah, I do.
Go ahead.
Also on the Trumbull High School, it has parking, drainage, and driveway alterations of 120,000.
Yes, that's designed to study the flooding problem that we have at the front of the school, and
So-
to create design documents to bid so that we have a sense of what that cost is. It's a pretty extensive project to tie that front parking lot into the remaining parking lot and discharge from the site properly. Right now, it's undersized, and we've had flooding issues. If you recall, we had major damages in 2018.
My only point is it's a study and design, not alterations.
Correct.
Right? I just want
Correct.
to make sure we're looking at the right.
Correct.
Okay. I have no more questions, however, I would like to make a motion. I would like to motion taking out $2.2 million for the field. Let me finish. I already see faces over there. We've proven that this field's not going to last 20 years, right? We should only be bonding for things that are going to live to the life of the bond. I'm all for paying for this. We have $32 million sitting in our general fund. We can take the $2.2 million and doesn't even get us down to 14%, and we have to hold 10% for our rating agencies. I think that's a better use of the money than spending on it, because otherwise we're going to spend now for a field that'll last us 10 years, spend in 10 years for another field that lasts 10 years. So we'll be paying off the first field while we already replace it twice. That doesn't seem logical to doing a bond that way. I'm for paying for the field. Unfortunately, we've already dug our grave with this one. I'm just being clear to everybody. That's why I'm against turf fields. We're stuck with this field. So I still think we have to do it, but that's my issue with the turf fields. But I don't think we should be bonding stuff that we'll never be catching up to.
Dave, do you know the date, the last time the turf field?
I'd have to
I do
defer
remember
to-
being involved in it that last time.
I'd have to defer to Mike King.
I've only been in town 11 years and I was here. So
Yeah.
I believe the field is 11th year now.
Okay.
So that would have been 2012.
Mike, did you have any, Mr. King, do you have any data on what the current, like, G values are on the field?
The GMAX, I do not.
Okay. So that would be just give you an idea of what the life expectancy left of the field and stuff. There's a motion. Can I have a second for discussion? Thanks, Paul. Discussion about Scott's motion to remove the field from the bonding authorization and to pay from the general fund, to request it as a supplemental. Go ahead.
Necessarily tied together, but before we vote to remove the bonding authorization on the Board of Ed side for this field, I think I would like some indication as to where we plan to go with regard to the other field that's on the town side of the budget. That's $2.8 million, for a total of $5 million for two fields. I mean, Scott's logic is correct, in my opinion, in terms of what we should bond and what we shouldn't bond. But if we're doing that for two fields, then we're exposed to taking $5 million out of the general fund balance for those purposes.
It's a fair question. I can only say where I stand, and that's to not fund the other field. I mean, I've been very clear that I'm not for turf fields and adding more.
Both fields.
I'm for funding this field out of the general fund because we've already dug that one, right? We're stuck to that turf field.
Mm-hmm.
The other field is not turf field. I'm not in favor of turning it into one.
Got it. Okay.
I'm not sure I'm comfortable removing the 2.2 on top of that. Maria?
Can I clarify something? You asked for the fund balance. 32 million was at June 30th. Right now it's 30 million because we are using $1.5 million from the fund balance in this year's budget. So it's 30 million now, just to be clear.
I appreciate that. It doesn't change my argument.
No, I
It's
think
onto the argument that we shouldn't have used it to balance the budget, but two separate arguments. But it doesn't change where I stand because that still only brings us to, 13.9%, which is more than enough. I mean, we've functioned between 10 and 11% for years. Being that we have such a healthy general fund, I think it should be utilized better.
Okay. Any other discussion or questions on Scott's motion? Okay.
Excuse me.
Yep.
So close.
It's hard for the people sitting down here to understand.
So I appreciate your thoughts, Scott, but I think there's some parameters about using general fund money and finishing a project. Do you want to speak to that, or do you want me to speak to that? You can speak to that.
If you approve a supplemental appropriation, the project has to be finished by June 30th, or encumber and paid and finished by August 31st. So if you were planning to use a surplus or do a supplemental instead of bonding, it needs to be a project that will be completed within that
And I
time.
expected you to say that, but it's a field at the school that's used for our high school athletics. Unless you guys tell me that you aren't going to be having sports next year on it, I assume we'll be done by the start of school.
I can't speak to that. Mike King can, but I don't believe it will be completely finished by August 31st.
Most likely it would not be. The estimates are 12 to 14 weeks for the completion of the field project. We would try to start as soon after graduation as we could.
My recommendation, Scott, would be to leave this field and have it bonded at that amount. And when you go into the town side of the capital plan, you will see that I have recommended using some general fund money on that side, on projects that we can finish before August 31st. And we have to be careful. I'm leery of spending that much money from the general fund. We still have large tax appeals that are due. We don't know, because they're still in court, we don't know what the balance will be due to the town credit-wise or from our general fund. And I don't think it's wise to go into the general fund to that extent at this point in time.
I appreciate that. My stance doesn't change, but I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, so currently, there's a motion on the floor to remove the field from the bond authorization with the intent to make it a supplemental appropriation. All in favor of removing that amount signify by saying aye. All who are not in favor of that. So that will fail 1-5. So the $2,200,000 remains in the bond. The total for the bond as adjusted, Maria, am I correct that the total would be $5,497,000? Or did we account for the 125? We have to add 400,000, correct?
You remove the 125, it becomes 5,570,000.
But I don't believe the 125 was actually in the request, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so then the bond resolution before us is at $5,222,000. We would need to adjust that amount to
$5,570,000.
You want it to be 5.7?
No. Your numbers that you're saying now.
Okay.
We have to add 400,000, correct?
That would be 5,622.
Right, she just said 5.7. That's, Scott, the numbers that we were discussing don't add up because we took the 125 out, but it's not actually in there.
No, the front page of the total, we have the 125 is 5,170,000. So if we're adding 400,000.
I think there's fees. The resolution is on the front page, is what I'm reading.
No, I saw that number, I'm just trying to get
It will be, the gross amount, the amount before the bonding cost is $5,570,000. We have bonding costs. So we're going to bring it up to $56,225,000.
$5,625,000. Can I have a motion to amend the amount of the Board of Education Capital Improvement Bond? Thank you, Rosemary. Seconded by Dave. I like that the new kids are already right in. This is awesome. The dollar amount, the new dollar amount will be $5,625,000. All those in favor of appropriating $5,625,000 for the Trumbull Board of Education Capital Improvement Plan. Oh, wait, we have a motion and a second. We need to vote on that amount. All in favor of that amount? 6, okay. So that, all in favor of a resolution appropriating $5,625,000 for the Trumbull Board of Education Capital Improvement Plan for the 2024-2025 year, and authorizing the issuance of $5,625,000 of bonds of the town to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Signify by saying aye. And those opposed? Motion passes 5-1. Scott is a no. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
You ask a question.
And I'd asked you, I don't know if you got an answer, so if not, I'll ask Maria.
Go ahead.
What does our debt do to our bond rating? The amount of debt that we have on our books? Because we always talk about what bond rating we're after. We have to keep so much in reserves, but our debt has to have some kind of impact.
According to the rating agencies, our debt is below the norm, so we're still under the levels. I think they look at it 10 times some amount. I don't have the details in front of me.
Can we get those?
Sure, I can ask that.
The reason I say that, and I've shared it with the board and others, based on the 5-year capital plan and where we're aiming to go with bonding, we're looking at about $500 million in bonded debt over the next 6 years, which has to have some kind of impact and isn't really feasible to anyone who actually wants to pay their taxes. So I'd love to know those numbers so we can keep that in line too. Thank you.
Okay. And just remember that the 5-year capital plan is fluid, and it is a guideline to allow us to go for grant funding and all that. I know. Yep. Just want to make sure. It is a large number. It's got a lot of zeros. Okay. Moving on. Resolutions which are subject to this meeting are available to the public on the town's website. Is there a motion and a second to read the title of the town capital improvement bond resolution in its entirety, and to waive the reading of the remainder of the resolution, incorporating its full text into the minutes of this meeting?
So moved.
Scott, thank you, Paul. All those in favor? All right. This is a resolution appropriating $15,885,000 for the Trumbull Town Capital Improvement Plan 2024-2025 fiscal year, and authorizing the issuance of $15,885,000 in bonds of the town to meet said appropriation, and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. Is there a motion and a second to discuss? Thank you, Paul. Thank you, Scott. All right, like a well-oiled machine. George is already here. Hi there.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you.
I will answer any questions, specific questions that you have, but as you see in your package, I don't envy you. There is no easy decision this evening. We obviously, all of the projects that we have listed and presented to you all have merit, and they've been identified as priorities for the town by one agency or another. We originally, from our original one-year adopted plan, from our 5-year capital plan, we reduced the ask $7.1 million, and then worked with the First Selectman's office to reduce it to what you have today by another $1.7 million. So everything that we reduced, obviously it stays within the capital plan. It shifted out in priority out 1 year, so it's not that it falls off of the plan. It just moves out 1 year. And then obviously next year we'll have another equally difficult time in making choices, trying to stay within a budget that can be considered by the town ultimately to fund. I'm at your disposal to answer questions if you have, department by department, and I also have my team here for specifics.
May I share this page with you, just so, as we're having some discussions, some of the work that we've been looking at in preparation for this meeting, we recognize the value and the necessity of the projects contained in the bond resolution. I think it is the intent of our board to minimize the bonding request and perhaps pay for some of this outside of bonding. So the discussion that we would like to have is how best to do that. We had some things that we felt were smaller dollar amount projects that had design pieces that could be done with supplementals within the time frame that a supplemental would need to be taken care of. So we kind of wanted to discuss what appropriate measures we would take. So it's not our intent to eliminate those items, it's just to figure out how best to pay for it. Typically in a year, we bond somewhere between 11 and 13 million is about the average. And the bond request in front of us between the Board of Education, which is close to 6 million, and the town, which is at close to 16 million, is 21 million. So that's $10 million more than we would normally bond. So we're hoping to have that kind of discussion and how best to achieve that. Do you want to make a motion to discuss this list? Do you want to make, how do we want to do that? How best do we do that, Attorney Shopek?
There's no right answer.
So the bond is open for discussion. Can we,
Yes.
can we have the discussion and then
You can
make
open
our
up
motions?
the discussion, have your discussion, and then you have to come back to individual items to, because I think you're having a broader discussion. It's not an item-by-item discussion. It's really, you may play one off against the other.
Okay. Paul, do you want to start that discussion?
Yeah, for purposes of starting the discussion, I would make a motion that we reduce. I would make a motion that we reduce the bond authorization request that's before us by $4,140,000. So $15,885,000 would be reduced by that amount. I will identify where the subject reductions might be made, but it's in line with the argument that Scott gave us earlier, which I think is a legitimate argument, to reduce our bonded indebtedness over time and spend out of supplemental appropriations since our fund balance is as healthy as it is.
Okay, and a second on that? Thank you. Okay, discussion.
I can walk through all of these, but I'd like to make a suggestion because it was discussed just a short time ago. Projects need to be completed if we do go that route by August. So some of these would probably run beyond the August timeframe. So I would suggest that you consider possibly taking whatever amount you're looking to fund through the fund balance from the paving program, because we initiate the paving program March, April. So whatever that is, we would apply towards the early paving, and we would make the time frame that's a requirement of the bond.
If we were to do that, would we need to look at that paving as a lump sum or by street? Would you have to pick?
I think a lump sum. Well, Maria, I defer to you.
A lump sum will be fine.
Paul?
Yeah, my problem with that alternative is that it goes against the reason why we're proposing the total to be reduced. Because you're funding items that have more than a 20-year life through cash and not by way of bonding, if you're doing the streets as opposed to other alternatives.
Okay. Items that we identified on this list are all study, design phase. There's some sidewalk work, senior center design, the Whitney Trail design, Long Hill Green design. If that were done by supplemental, what on that list that you're looking at could not be done
within that time
frame?
The school zone traffic study is one. That's the 40,000 that we have there, because we're going to be studying multiple sites That's to help us assess conditions so that we can plan appropriately for design for
But
safety.
you're saying, George, that cannot be completed by
I-
August 31?
That may run over, yeah, that one. And I'm coming down the list, that's the first one I arrive at.
Can I just ask a quick question while you're looking? Can we do a supplemental for 20,000 for part of it, and then a supplemental next year after June 30th for the other half? Right, because supplemental is our money. We're approving whether or not he can go forward with it. And it's whether or not when he has to spend the money. But if we don't give it to him until next year, then he can finish the project in September or October.
If we split that, though, what does it go out to bid as one project?
No, because I don't believe so. We'll be addressing one at a time and trying to develop concepts. But that isn't a bad idea, because as long as I can come back once we need the additional funding, then I would return to you to justify that, and then you would be able to consider it.
I mean, in fairness, I'm not saying people won't change their mind, but as of today, the people sitting here, aside from Marty, will be here in 6 months. You know, we aren't coming up to an election. We're all going to be sitting here. So if we give you our word, I'd like to think that we'll all stand by it.
We recognize that all of this needs to be done. We just feel that these were smaller items that they technically don't fit the requirements for bonding, right? Because something that's bonded has to last over a long period of time. So we're not sure when it became the way that we work, that we were bonding these smaller design projects. So that inflated the amount that we were going for bonding. And it might be in times where we were skirting the 10% threshold, or that things were bad, that we look to bonding as a way to be able to do more. But I think that this might be a good way to do that. So if we were to do that, you could come back for the supplemental in pieces.
I'm fine with that.
Okay.
I don't mind coming back to you with a justification for what we're planning.
Okay.
Can I just continue through, because there are going to be others. Town hall improvements, the renovations, the 85,000, some of that may run beyond that, because this is going to be applied towards things like the tax assessors, the town clerk's office. There's some renovations in this room to make some improvements to the areas where the council and Board of Finance occupy. So some of that may, even through procurement process, may go a little bit beyond that August. It could end up in the fall. Again, I would come back then late spring, early summer, and with the budget for whatever it is that we're proposing, and then we would move from there. So I can.
So procurement, you're talking about furniture and fixtures?
Yes, the town hall renovation, the town hall, it says LHCR, Long Hill Room, the other conference room here, and then council chambers. Seating in here, as you see, because you're occupying it, is in pretty dire condition. It's at end of life.
Chairs are great, we're good.
It's awesome.
Don't lean back, but we're good.
The two conference rooms here have chairs that at this point the cylinders don't work, and you're basically sitting on the ground or in a lowrider. So we
Paul has that
really,
chair in this room right now.
This is the seat of government, and I really suggest that we make these are basic improvements. These are not luxury items. These are operational improvements, because not only the boards and commissions use those rooms, but the community uses those rooms, and they should present a better. It should be a better
We're not
presentation.
arguing that we know those things need to be replaced. We're trying to decide if it's something we want to pay for over 20 years, or if that's something that's more pertinent to pay for, because they don't last 20 years.
Correct. Yeah, I agree.
Well, I mean, we keep them for 20 years. Don't get me wrong. Some of these chairs predate,
We keep them that long, but they shouldn't be, yes.
Okay.
Yes.
But George, based on your analysis so far, you're seeing two items of concern.
Yeah. Culverts, infrastructure. The culverts and infrastructure inspection, design, and repairs, I don't know, is Bill Mauer here yet? Our town engineer is not here, unfortunately. But that is a long process. It's something that will be bid out probably as a package, but that process takes the summer, the majority of the summer into the fall.
Is there any chance for grant money for design, for,
Not that we've been able to identify thus far, but we are always searching for them.
okay. Looking at town hall, asbestos removal, flooring,
Those are also tied into the renovations of those offices that we discussed before. Because when, for instance, when we removed the counters in the tax collector's office, we found that we had asbestos tile below.
if we went for a supplemental at our next meeting for those and we chose a lesser amount, could you come back to, would it allow you to go out to bid for that so that we could then adjust the supplemental? Does that work, Maria? Like technically?
Say that again.
So let's say the asbestos removal is going to take longer than August, but he comes for some of the money and they have to bid that work out, and if he comes back and has a better idea, because we've already said that we would give him a supplemental, we can adjust that amount. So we don't jeopardize the project by doing that, correct?
I don't think you can, if you don't have the funds in place and you put it out to bid, let's say it comes in $1 million and you only have $30,000 appropriated, I don't know how you tell a contractor to move forward.
Well, that's why I'm making sure that the mechanism would be correct. I don't know that answer. That's why I'm asking.
Once the bids come in, if they come higher than we have, we come to the Board of Finance for the additional funding.
You come for additional funding, but still, if you're doing it as a supplemental and you can't finish the job before August 31st.
But do you have to have funding in place to go for the bid?
Well, it goes both ways. In many cases, we have not had funding in place, but you can't award the bid until the funding is in place.
So that they would know that
It'll
it
be
was pending authorization?
Subject to funding,
But
yes.
so that wouldn't jeopardize your project for us to do it that way then? I just want to make sure that we don't make a mistake.
Maria,
No, I don't.
Okay.
so once the money is, once you have a purchase order for that,
As long as you start the project before the end of the year and then start the new the second phase in July or August.
but then you have to bid it out in phases. I mean, that's the question I'm asking.
Do anyway.
What you do anyway, okay. Okay.
Vin?
I just want to make a point here, is that all of the things that are on here, at some point, somebody has gotten some sort of information to prepare a bid. So I can't believe that you need to be funded before you get a bid. That sounds ridiculous to me. Secondly, I feel very strongly that many of these things are not qualified for a bond. They don't have the project life cycle. I think what it does is just is a different way of us approaching funding for these things. And again, I think you made a good point about the close to the margin on the 10%. That might have been the way we've done it before, but I think we have to look at it a new way and start to do things a little bit differently to optimize our expenditures.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that we have the process in place before we move anything else. Any other comments about?
Does anyone have an opinion as to what actually happens if we don't meet the August 31st deadline on some of these appropriations? What's the result?
The leftover balance goes back to the general fund, and they'll have to come back for another supplemental because they can't finish.
After the 31st of August.
And then I would come back anyway.
So this is a different scenario. So typically, we hold supplementals for emergency purposes. We don't use that as a budgeting option. But because the bond request before us is larger and we have that ability to do that, we're treating these as a supplemental but differently so that we're using that fund balance, understanding that we're then not paying interest on bonds for projects that shouldn't have been bonded in the first place. Okay, so am I making that clear? So, okay. Okay. Anybody else have any other questions for George?
I have two questions, not
Go
on
ahead.
this list. townwide sidewalk repair and replacement, is that normal upkeep?
Yeah, that is that's an ongoing replacement of existing sidewalks that are identified as a safety.
So why aren't we budgeting for it if it's ongoing? Why isn't it a budget item instead of $80,000 of bonding every year?
Some of those sidewalks could be 20 years old. It's just
that these need it. It's not really. It's the existing sidewalks of certain parts have reached their limit, and we have to replace those. So it's not really ongoing. It's just these ones need to. And for clarity, this is only existing.
Existing sidewalks,
Okay.
yes.
Again, I'm against
Yeah.
adding more in the current
Me
state.
too.
But separate conversation. The second part, senior center. I am for the senior center. I support it. How many times can we design it?
This is to complete what the committee's work. They will bring a proposal to the council soon, I believe. The meeting was actually supposed to be last night, and there were a couple of conflicts that occurred, so they delayed it to next week.
Okay.
So
I can't say that I know what goes on in those meetings. I've had no part of them, but I mean, haven't we designed a place like 3 times?
But wait, Mr. Gala.
Happy to answer. So I sit on that committee.
Okay.
And yes, it has been through a preliminary design in its current state. As Mr. Estrada mentioned, the design funding here is to bring it to its final design in its next stage. So this is the final stage of design.
Of it this time.
Well,
I know I'm beating a dead horse, but I mean, it's like we've
there-
had multiple final senior centers.
in different locations, yes. Yes.
It's just, again, we're talking about a lot of money each time we come up with
Understood.
final plans.
Yeah, we've got a conceptual design on right now, and this would be the final design.
And if I may add something, this next step of design allows us to have a solid budget and prepare the presentation for what will need to be a referendum. And without this next step, we really would not be able to give you a solid number of what that budget is. Because right now, the conceptual level that we have it, we can't cost that out.
George, the sidewalk repair and replacement that Scott talked about, could that be handled within the time frame of a supplemental or split?
Most likely, yes.
Okay, so my concern is the culvert and infrastructure inspection, the stuff. I don't feel like we should play around with our pipings. So I would rather see us take that out of this list and put the sidewalks. How do you guys feel about that?
Why don't we put the transfer station in and make it an even 100? Do 100 for 100?
What?
Right.
What is the transfer?
George, there's a transfer station of 20,000. Oh, wait, nope, I'm sorry, that was out of the bonding. Didn't look all the way over. I looked too quickly, I was looking for 20 grand.
That's okay. All right. I mean, I think within the 20,000, I would feel more comfortable with that. What do you think?
I would agree.
Scott, can you give me that total for the sidewalk?
It was 80,000.
And is there a line item or a number with it? Page number?
It is page 6 of 11, just townwide sidewalk repairs and replacement, 80,000.
Townwide? Okay, so that's 80,000. Okay. So take out the culvert and infrastructure off the list and add the sidewalk in, so it was $20,000 difference. But would that make you feel more comfortable, George, that project?
Yeah, that's fine. Yep.
All right. Okay, so, any other questions about the bonding resolution? Go ahead, Paul.
George, you might not know the answer to this question. You might not know the answer to this question. I would understand if you don't. WPCA proposed expense.
Yes.
You know what the number is. anything that you're proposing to be expended as a capital investment in our sewer system, would that be impacted if in fact we were ever to resolve our differences with Bridgeport? Would that expense be still that amount of money? And would that project still need to happen if that problem were resolved?
The projects that are listed here all have an urgency level to them, so they would have to happen regardless.
So they don't fall within our resolution of that problem? Because that resolution
No, not at all.
stands
Not
nowhere.
at all. Yeah, one of them is actually a DEP, what do you call it? Requirement, but there's a consent order. We have a consent order, so there are projects in the WPCA side that we have to do.
Question on all the machinery, just for confirmation. That's the full cost of the machinery, not kind of vested over a couple of years like we sometimes do in the budget? Right?
That's full cost.
Full cost, okay. Again, clearly by the dates of the machines that we're replacing, they aren't going to last 20 years. I'd motion to take another $751,600 out of the bonding.
I'm sorry, what was the number?
751.
We're not motioning, we're just discussing whether
Oh.
that's what we want to do first. So
Okay.
let's not, because there's a motion on the floor, so we would have to adjust that.
All right.
So he wants to talk about the equipment that's in there. There's 761,000?
751,600. It's on page 9 of 11.
Is Dr. Semmel still here? Can we pay for that with a non-lapsing account? Just kidding, totally kidding, really.
And I'm just basing it on the year of the current vehicles that we're replacing. These aren't going to last 20 years. Let's see, we've got a snowplow, we've got F550, sander, concrete muncher, boom attachment, but they're all 2013, 03, 06, 04. So they're
There are six, I believe there are 6 items.
I'm told the snow plows last more than 20 years, but I could be wrong.
Scott, it looks like we're pretty close, and I'm not arguing with you, I understand the motion, or the concern, but it looks like we're pretty close, except for our boom attachment here, to getting to approximately 20 years. I think we're at 17 on a few of them, 17, 18. Is that correct?
Yeah.
By the time we actually replace them, that we procure them, they'll be at that probably
Yeah.
18 to 19 year.
I also think delivery is an issue by August with a lot of the equipment. I think that we've run into that problem the last couple of years, Scott.
They are, most of them are 06s, a couple of them are 03s. So they have
Everybody knows
met-
our fleet manager, by the way.
Hi, guys. The problem I'm having now is if I order one, if you give me the okay to order one, it'll be a 24 purchase, hopefully to get it for 25. Chances are, I just got an F-350 from 2021 2 weeks ago. Yeah, and we actually had to come back for supplemental because they didn't get VIN numbers. You remember that whole ordeal. So we're just trying to be proactive to get the vehicles because chances are they're going to be a year extra out than we've been expecting. No, that one they just canceled it on us. That was the backhoe. They just canceled it on us. No, I had 3 Fords, 1 WPCA and 2 for highway. That they just literally said, well, we ran out of time. We didn't give you a VIN number, so we're just canceling your purchase order. And we had no recourse. They gave us new pricing for the new model year, and I think we ended up spending like $50,000 more on 3 vehicles, and we had no recourse. So we're just trying to be proactive and get the things.
So I think that.
So we don't actually need the money till you get them.
But you have to have the authorization to go get them.
I mean,
I don't know, Scott. I think we've been pretty good on this so far, but I think we may have to let that one go. Any other discussion, any other questions? So now we want to talk about the field at Indian Ledge. You don't want to talk about it? All right. won't tell anybody what card you have. So, go ahead, Paul.
I think we need a brownie break.
Okay, well, let's take a 5-minute recess and we'll come back.
Well done.
Okay, so we are currently discussing the town bonding resolution. We were in the middle of discussing a motion to reduce the amount of bonding by, Paul, the number was $4,140,000, and in the part of that discussion, we want to talk about the field at Indian Ledge. Dimitri. Mr. Paris. Hi. So a couple questions about the turf field at Indian Ledge. If it were to be a multi-purpose turf field, the amount of money that is in the bonding request is $2.8 million, plus the $700,000 that was put aside from ARPA funding. Would that complete a multi-purpose turf field, start to finish?
From the last meeting, I was surprised with some of the proposals made, going from a natural turf field with ARPA funding to making a artificial field. I did some research, spoken to Shaw Synthetic Sports. They were the lowest bid for, oh, it wasn't bid, it was acquired quote for doing McDougal Field. Also RED Sports, who do the actual installation of them. I have some back of the envelope numbers at this point, which would put us below $2.8 million, including the lighting package. So to answer your question, the funding that you're talking about, we would have sufficient funds. But again, we've done this before with a number of my projects, to my shame sometimes. You don't know what those numbers are until you know what those numbers are. The short period of time that I've had to try to acquire something that's concrete, I don't want to come before you and give you make-believe numbers. I can show you an email. I can show you what we have for a solid number for the lighting of the girls softball field at the high school campus, which would be approximately the same lighting.
When is that going to be completed, by the way?
I would have to, is Dave here? Dave isn't here. I believe that is in the works right now.
And that'll be playable for the spring season?
I do not know what the installation schedule is, Mike.
They may even start tomorrow. They dropped off all the materials, they're finishing up a job, and then coming right to us.
Okay.
Thank you, Mike.
The money, the current amount that was placed in the ARPA funding,
700.
at $700,000.
Yep.
If we do not choose to put in the bonding request for the $2.8 million right now, could that, and I'm not saying that it's not that a turf field wouldn't be supported in another fashion, but would that make that playable for baseball, softball, including the lights, for the $700,000?
Yes.
Okay. Any questions for Dimitri on any of the other items?
I just have, I mean, I'm happy to hear yes, but how? Because, and the reason I asked it is you were very adamant that lights could not go up there. We could not fix the lights. It could not happen. I think we were at the high school when we had that conversation. So what changed? Because I know the field didn't.
Well, the design did.
Okay.
In short. I mean, we've gone through a lot of different iterations of this project. All right, I'm going to give you just one last recap of where we were, and I'm sorry to bore you with it, but the reality is that when we started this ARPA funding concept, we were tasked as department heads to put together projects that would have the maximum impact for the various user groups that we represent. We went to all of our various leagues and user groups, and without question, a multi-purpose field, because there's literally, with the thousands of acres we actually have, a few of it actually have the adjoining amenities to make a facility work. You need a bathroom, or you need a parking lot, or whatever. It's just not the field in isolation. So we actually have a limited number of spaces that we can still pull that off. It was identified that Indian Ledge softball field was of suitable size to be able to be reconfigured as a multi-purpose field. It was also well past end of life for a variety of reasons, including the lighting structures, which were incredibly old, and the failure of the field itself. When some of the conversations that we were having about good money after bad, one of the earliest conversations was, why don't you fix the lights? Period. And so that was the answer to that question. If we were to fix the lights, we are still back into the same circle of impossible maintenance of that field as this field currently sits. Every time that you would have to try to gain access to those lights, you have to go through quite a gymnastic event to get to it, and most of the time you ended up doing more harm to the field itself. So each time you fixed it, you broke more. That was the answer to that question. So what was the simple solution? Concept was artificial fields, synthetic turf gets you on average 5 times more playability, et cetera, but it also changes the base. Once you change the base, you could drive over it with a Sherman tank. Not really, but you could drive over it with maintenance equipment to be able to access the lights. Each piece to adding and expanding the concept and usability of that property adds more cost. Move the light post, a different height, et cetera, keeps changing the overall costs. We arrived at, let's get usable lights. We had a lot of people asking for that to be returned. Let's find a way to do it and add playability. That was the original concept. And the reason why, don't put more money into fixing a light with the natural field. Where do we want to go from here? Ask away.
So basically, you'd redesign it, the lights will be more accessible.
Yep.
And you'll put up new lights, and you can fit that into a $700,000 budget and make another field that's usable for us as a town.
That is correct.
Which is a great line of thinking with all our other fields in town.
It is
to evaluate it from another perspective.
It is a reasonable. I think it is a reasonable compromise based on a lot of the demands that we have. Are we going to be able to get the same amount of playability? I will not step back from that. You have to understand they're very different concepts. Does it give the baseball community what they need with various weather conditions? Absolutely not. Does it fix a failed amenity? Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions for Dimitri? Okay. There's a motion on the floor to amend the bond authorization by $4,100,000. We had discussion about substituting the culvert and infrastructure inspection design and repairs on the list that we were discussing with townwide sidewalk repair and replacement for $80,000. Can I have a motion to amend the amount of the motion that Paul made? Okay. So then we would need to discuss what this list is for that. Okay? Is to amend the amount of your motion. I don't know. That's math. Come on.
Well, why don't you wait till you get through the list and you go one by one?
$4,100,000.
Because you're gonna have to go to.
You want it?
Well, you're gonna have to go to each item.
Okay.
Each line that you're gonna reduce or increase, and you're gonna have to identify them. So when you get done with all of that, then you'll have the final number. I think then plug it in.
Okay.
So do we have to make a motion on each one of those, or
Yes.
just one?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought we did. We had to make a
Yes.
motion on each one to come out of the bond.
Well, Vin, you picked a good night to be sitting in the chair.
Those are instructions I got from the young lady back there.
All right. So
So we know the number's now 4,120,000.
We'll get there at the end.
yes.
But as
Okay.
we go along, we should have that number in mind.
Okay. So we need to define the list. So there needs to be a motion. Can we do it as one motion, or does each one need to be a separate motion and vote, Keisha?
Well, the issue you have is that if you do it as, one motion, then you're going to need a two-thirds vote to cover everything. My understanding is that there are some items that are not changing. So if you do it separately, then the items that are not changing, you just need your majority vote.
Okay, so then if we do each one as a motion, then we don't need a two-thirds vote.
I don't think the council, the Board of Finance requires a two-thirds vote. It's only in the council.
I'm sorry, that's correct.
Can I ask you to just come to the microphone because it's hard to hear? I apologize.
First, I apologize for looking like an Eskimo. I'm a little cold.
For anybody, Keisha, I never get your last name correct.
Palmer?
Okay. Keisha Palmer is our bond counsel. So for anybody who doesn't know, Rosemary, I just wanted to make sure.
Good evening, everyone, and I apologize. I did get the boards mixed up. So my answer from the gallery was actually pertains to the town council and not to you. So to answer your question, can you do it as one motion? Yes, you can, but just clearly define what you are changing so that it can be properly captured in the revisions that will go to town council.
Okay.
We have to take which line we're taking out, how much, and then we'll vote on it as a whole.
Correct.
Okay. Then do you want to go through the list for me? Or Paul?
Paul said he was going to do it.
All right, Paul. Use the microphone, Paul. Pull it close.
Didn't realize I said that, but okay. The first item is in the Nature Center, and it's for design phase to redesign that Nature Center on North Main Street, and the number is $25,000. You want to discuss each of these individually, or you want to go through?
No, I want you to read the list, and then we'll have the discussion, and I think Scott wants to make a motion.
Second number would be $25,000 in the town hall sidewalk replacement. Third number would be $30,000 in the police station sidewalk. Fourth is $150,000, the senior center design. Next is $75,000, the Whitney Trail design. Next is $100,000, the Long Hill Green design. Yep. I can.
And can you also go by section? I have the list, but.
I don't have the section numbers, Maria, I'm sorry.
Scott, do you have it by section?
Okay.
I marked up each section.
So the last one I stated was the Long Hill Green design for $100,000. Next would be $85,000 in the ADA transition plan. Next would be $40,000, the school zone traffic study. $20,000, the transfer station conceptual plan. $25,000, the EMS carport. $85,000 Long Hill renovations and common council renovations and the other office renovation, whatever that room is called. Next is $70,000 Public Works fueling redesign. $25,000 Public Works Baywash design. $100,000 culverts and infrastructure inspection design and repair. That one is to be taken out of the list.
Correct. So we're not including that in the list that we're motioning, okay? And we're substituting that for the townwide sidewalk repair and replacement?
Correct.
That's page 6 of 11, Maria, for $80,000.
Next one is the Town Hall asbestos project, $30,000. $50,000 the Town Hall flooring project. $50,000 senior center air conditioning replacement project. $80,000 senior center door replacement project. $75,000 Great Oaks Park Design Project. $2.8 million Indian Ledge Field Project. The total becomes $4,120,000.
So the motion is to remove these items from the bond authorization.
Correct.
With the intent that they be paid for from another source.
The intention would be, as we've all agreed to earlier, that we would come back to the Board of Finance for supplemental appropriations and expend those dollars out of cash for each of these projects.
I just want to make sure I'm clear. I'm good with all of that, except for the Indian Ledge. I'm not signing on for that as a supplemental.
No.
I'm just,
I don't think anybody was.
okay, I'm just saying that statement
it's a-
sounded like all of it, and I want to make sure I'm not.
Understood.
No, and we have no authorization to put any of that on our agenda this evening, so they would all have to come back from the departments.
Understood.
Okay?
We missed one, the Board of Ed Hillcrest Building Study.
That, we already took care of that in the Board of Ed capital plan.
So that'll change our number? Because that was included in our original number of $4,140,000.
So we'll be at 3,920,000.
920.
Okay, and that's the motion to reduce the bond authorization amount by $3,920,000. Scott, did you want to make a motion to amend the amount? Go ahead, Scott.
Motion to amend the amended amount.
Excuse me, sorry. Before you do that, the pool, Tashua Pool, I had originally put that in as to be considered taking that $625,000 that we need to finish that project out of the general fund. So unless you now want to put that back into the bonding package.
I thought it was already removed.
It is, but it's removed and being taken from the general fund or from somewhere else. It's not in the bonding package, the 625.
So you want to add it back to the bonding?
Yeah, well, again, because you already have $1,320,000, I believe you're taking out of the general fund, right? If you leave it the way it is here, that's another $625,000 you'd be taking out of the general fund or paying it from somewhere else. I don't know where that would be.
The comments on it say ARPA and bond from previous year. Is that incorrect?
I had suggested that the 625 be taken from the general fund and 300,000 from ARPA for the sprinkler pad. That's up to you to decide where you want to take it from. That's.
So
It's not in the bond, but it's not in the bond.
It's not in the bond package, right?
So that would take our total.
In the comments is that it's going to be funded through either operations or ARPA, those two projects.
Okay, then
Not
what's the
bonding.
bond from previous year? Because again, I'm just going by the notes that say bond previous year. Am I the only one seeing it?
Yes, because we bonded that, the pool, we took $850,000 from ARPA, and we bonded another $1.925 million previously.
And then
And this is the additional amount that is needed
To
to
complete
cover
that
the gap,
project.
to finish the project. The 600, and Dimitri or
As you
George
can
can explain this more if they'd like, but
There's not the other column for bonding for those
but
two.
none of that was in the bonding
and the
project.
total for that is 625.
625 for the gap in the pool funding and
Yeah.
$300,000 for the sprinkler pad at Tashua for the
So that would be the 900,000.
that you'd
And
have.
the items that we removed, all the design items, is at $1,300,000. $1,340,000, is that correct?
It's $1,320,000, I believe, or something like that. Right, $1,320,000.
320, yeah.
So that still keeps us, even if that was supplemental or ARPA, that still keeps us below 2 million. Would that change your motion, Scott? No. Okay.
But I do have a question. How much do we have left in ARPA?
$455,000, I believe.
Okay.
Unassigned.
Unassigned, okay. And have we spent what we've assigned it out for? Have those projects, any of them even come close to completion to know
Some
if the
have.
money? Is there any money left over from any of those?
I couldn't say, right, we'd have to look
I
at
don't know
that.
right now.
Okay.
I mean, we could get a report, but not right now.
No problem. Okay. But no, that doesn't change where I'm going. Thank you for the clarity, though.
So if you leave those where they are as is, you're taking, either you're going to take, I don't know what your discussion is about the 300,000 from ARPA, but you're taking another 675,000, 675? Mm-hmm. Right, out of the general fund.
Which puts us at roughly 2 million, right?
Yes.
On a, $30 million, on a $197 million
It still leaves you at
budget.
14%.
Correct. Okay.
Paul,
I'm
do you
good
have a
with
question
that.
on that? No?
Okay. I'll continue my motion then.
Okay.
Motion to the amendment is a broad one, but I want to take out another $801,600 from the bonding.
Can you identify those items?
Yep, I'm going to go through them. Yeah, it's the Freightliner snowplow sander for $255,000, Ford F550 with plow for $180,000, Ford F450, $171,600, concrete muncher pulverizer, $30,000, stacker magnet attachment for $30,000, boom attachment for John Deere tractor of $85,000, and the forklift of $50,000.
Okay, and the total on that?
$801,600.
Okay, so Scott has made a motion to amend the amendment to the bond amount, amending the amendment amount. Can I have a second for discussion? Thank you, Rosemary. All right, so now there's a motion to amend the amended amount. The discussion, Scott would like to remove the equipment from that.
Yes.
Would anybody care to discuss that?
Just a question probably to George. Is George still here?
Yeah, George is there.
George, any commentary on the economic life of each of these items? Typically?
I'm going to defer to Doug, who's the expert, the granular level.
That's why we pay him the big money.
Hello again.
Hey, Doug.
You have a question?
Yeah, there's 7 items, I believe, that Scott is referring to, all of which are part of the highway fleet.
Correct.
I will say I added one more, which was the forklift of the parks.
And the Parks Department is included, correct. Do you have any commentary on what is the likely economic life or typical economic life of these?
My plows are my biggest issue because the plows work in a very, very rough environment. I have 27 trucks on a 20-year replacement program. So I think 4 or 5 years ago, there was an agreement that we would continue to fund the plow trucks because we were in a really bad spot 5 or 6 years ago when I was losing trucks faster than I can keep them going for out there. We had 1 year we were plowing with F350s and mason dumps on town streets. So I just don't want to get back into a situation where we don't have enough plows for safety to clear roads.
When I'm taking these off, that's to then fund them supplementally.
Not a problem.
Okay, I'm just saying, like, this wasn't like, let's take them off and your stuff for this year.
Dimitri was making me breathe back there. It was like,
This is just how we pay for it.
This is how we pay for it, not that we won't.
My plows are my biggest issue. Last year's still aren't in yet. So usually when I order a plow, I don't have it for the following snow season. I won't get the plows until probably
So that's the problem with
March.
the supplemental.
or such. So like I have 2 in from last year's capital plan I haven't received yet.
We can do that. We can give you, like, go ahead, go put in the order. We can give him the supplemental on July 1st. I know we don't meet then, so what is it, July 14th or something, pick a.
Okay, understand, if I put an order in July for a plow truck, it'll be 2 years, because every other town in the state
No,
will
well, I mean,
get
we
ahead
could
of me.
give you put it in the order now. Right, what would stop you from putting in the order?
Oh,
now?
nothing, as long as I got a, Maria, help me. Yeah, a letter of intent.
Okay.
That'll probably
Right, so that won't
suffice.
stop you from nothing that we're doing here will stop you from giving you the money in your hand today to hold for 2 years, or giving it to you in 2 years won't stop you from
No.
being able to buy it.
Correct. Correct. I'm fine with that.
So let me drill down a bit more specifically, if I could. The first item on the list is for $255,000.
Right.
It's identified as snowplow.
Right. It's a full-size truck with an 11-foot plow.
So it's one piece of machinery.
One
So
truck.
what is the likely or typical economic life of that truck?
Between 20 and 25 years.
It is.
A frontline truck we try to keep for 20. Some of them are 22 and such, and then the newest one is It's a rolling auction. So the two oldest trucks become the spares, because you always have to have a spare for breakdowns.
Right.
So it's just a rolling. The oldest one drops off.
And just one more example, if I may, the $50,000 forklift item. What
Yes.
again is the typical economic life of that piece of
Yeah,
equipment?
right now we have a forklift. What we do is we share a forklift between 3 departments right now, and Dimitri needs a forklift more and more with the things he does. So he's requesting to have his own forklift, or have 2 for the 4 departments in highway complex. Our forklift now, our one forklift right now, I believe is an 04. So it's approaching the 20-year mark, and that one's not being replaced. That one is continuing to work.
Thank you.
Good.
Okay. Any other questions? The motion on the floor from Scott is to remove an additional $800,000 from the bond authorization. That would put these pieces of equipment in another payer source. Any other discussion about that piece of the motion?
Just to clarify the number, it's the specific number is 8016.
Dave?
Based on what we've heard from our fleet manager and from George, and what the anticipated life expectancy is of the existing fleet that we have here, I don't know that I'm necessarily comfortable with using shorter-term money for a project like this. It seems to fit as far as the timeline would go. 20 years is in approximate time seems to make sense for this from a bonding standpoint.
I think also then we need to finish the renovations on Tashiwa Pool to keep it running, and that's another 600. So I'm not necessarily comfortable with that, but go ahead, Scott.
That's fine. I just want to, from my math, I know you said that the plow should last 20, 25 years, but 06 to 03 is 17, not 20 or 25.
Okay. Any other discussion? Go ahead, Rosemary.
Just a question. It's the splash pad and the pool. I think that's what Vicki was saying.
Correct. So she has in there, her recommendation in there is that the pool, to complete the pool project, would come as a supplemental, and then to discuss ARPA or supplemental for the other piece.
To be clear, I was not recommending taking that much out of our general fund of close to $2 million. I was at the $1 million mark. So with the changes that you've made with the other items, you're already at that 1.3 million. So I was not suggesting to take an additional amount out of our general fund for the pool. I did suggest perhaps looking at ARPA for the sprinkler pad. And putting the 600 right back. Now, based on what you've done, or you're taking the money out for those other smaller items, putting the 625 back into the bonding package. Am I making myself clear? Okay. Right.
Okay. Any other discussion on Scott's motion? Okay. All those in favor of removing the vehicles or the equipment for the total of $801,000 signify by saying aye. Those opposed? Okay, so that's going to fail 2-4. So now we're talking about the other list that we had discussed earlier as Paul, so that there's no amendment to Paul's amendment. And the total there is $3,920,000. That's what you said. That's what I wrote down.
That's what you said.
Okay. Maria, are we correct with that list as before?
Yeah. I've been going through, I've been using my calculator, but I'm coming up with some different numbers, so
Okay.
we may want to.
So I'm going to go through it again, so we get the right
recalculate.
numbers. Yep. We voted against, they voted for. Yes.
3,614,900 as a reduction?
I did not. That was not the before.
3,614,900.
That includes 25,000 for the Nature Center design.
Can we go
Yep.
by category? Because it's the way it is in the schedule.
Yeah, hold on, I have
Do
to
you want me to
pull.
go and tell you what I have?
Yes.
Okay. I have, under Town Hall, the reduction for the 25,000 sidewalk.
Yep.
30,000 for the asbestos. The flooring reduction, 50,000. Long Hill, Nichols, conference room, et cetera, 85,000. Sidewalk for the police department, 30,000. Everything in the senior center, out, 150, 50, and 80. No?
Yep, I got it, go ahead.
70,000 from the Public Works yard renovations fuel station.
Design, yep.
The wash bay, did you take 25 out of the wash
The
bay?
design, yes.
Okay, I didn't have that, okay. DMS all stays there.
The carport, we,
Right, sorry, it is out. The nature center is out. Anything in the townwide sidewalks? 80,000 out? No? Yes?
yes, you're correct. We supplemented that for the culverts.
Okay, parks. 2,000,008 is out? Yep. 75,000 for the Great Oak Parks.
Yep.
Is the plan to add back the 625?
Well, do you have the Whitney Trail design?
Should we have discussed the 625?
Okay, Whitney Trail.
75,000 for the Whitney Trail design?
I have the Great Oaks.
Yep.
Whitney. Is that in the park improvements?
That's in the economic development.
Yeah, it's not in park improvements. Okay, so I'm done
Okay.
there. So in other, you have Long Hill Design.
Yep.
The Reservoir Avenue, oh, that's already out.
The ADA transition plan? Yes.
Okay, I didn't have that out, okay. Take that out. Then you have the 100,000 for the townwide culverts out.
We did not, we were
Okay.
not taking that out.
Okay.
We replaced the townwide sidewalk project with that.
Okay. How about the traffic study?
The school zone traffic study, yes, we want to remove that from the bond authorization for 40,000.
Okay.
And the transfer station conceptual planning for 20,000.
It was already not there.
The transfer station is already not there?
No, it was supposed to be through Teams?
So that should have been off of our list completely?
Yes.
Okay, so that's where one of the discrepancies, okay, so we're taking that off. And the total, Maria?
I have a net change of 3,744,900.
Or 900, okay.
How?
I mean, we have nothing that's on a 5 or a 0, so how do we get to a change of 44? I have 3,940,000.
Maria, does that include bonding expense? Would you normally?
No, no. Okay, and the vehicles went back, right?
Yes.
Okay. 3,825,000? I took out the vehicles previously.
Three,
3,825,000.
It's like dueling calculators.
yeah, I'm showing like $115,000 difference.
Okay. Did you say you were off by 125, Scott? 115?
Right,
Okay.
didn't you say like a $20,000 number shouldn't have been in there? Or was it?
The $20,000 difference was the culvert infrastructure switch with the
Not that, when you just talked about the transfer station.
the transfer station should come out of our list because
Right, and that was 20,000. You can add it, yeah.
I'll give you a clean list. I'll give you the clean list.
So $75,000 difference. So what do we have for 75,000? The Whitney Trail design? You go to the, break of the pedestrian development. It's on a list of costs. Okay, we found it. It's 3.9 million.
So our list is 1.1 plus the field is 2.8, which gives you 3.9.
I got 3.9. However your math just got there. Thank you.
Woo! Okay. So the motion on the floor is to reduce the original request by $3,900,000. Now, can I have a motion to amend the amendment by 625 to discuss the renovations for the pool?
You may want to take it separately.
You want to do it separately? Okay. Okay. So the motion on the floor is to reduce the bond authorization request by $3,900,000. All in favor? Can you say that again, please, Maria?
The total is $11,824,254. Financing cost of $118,243, and the total run it to the next 5,000 is $11,945,000.
Okay, so the motion on the floor is to reduce the bonding authorization by $3,900,000. That gives us a new total of $11,824,254 plus the bonding cost of $118,243, rounded to the nearest $500. I'm sorry? the nearest 5,000 would be 11,945,000 for that new total. All in favor of removing those items to get to that new total of 11,945,000 signify by saying aye. Okay, 6-0. Now, can I have a motion to amend the bonding authorization? Go ahead, Paul. Can you go to the microphone?
Motion to amend the bonding authorization by adding $625,000.
And the splash pad, because we have to discuss that as well. So that would be the 325. Right? Do- Or somewhere else. So you need to make the motion to add it back in so we can discuss it.
So it becomes 925.
Yes.
Motion is to amend the bonding authorization by adding back $925,000.
A second, so that's, so 625 and 325 would be 300, so it's 925 total. Paul made the motion and Rosemary seconded. And now we can have discussion about that.
I'll make my point simple. We have a healthy general fund. We should utilize the money. If all we're gonna do is take out the small stuff and then just add it right back in, we just wasted an hour of our lives. Like, really, because that's all we're doing is shuffling deck chairs. So I think we should leave it out.
Okay. Part of the exercise was that we're bonding the right things and not small projects that should be completed to do that. The pool renovations that have been done for now, so far, we paid some out of ARPA and some was a bond, correct? Paul?
I stick to the motion, keeping it at 925.
Do you have any discussion about whether or not you want to, do you want to add that whole amount back to the bonding authorization? Okay.
Okay, how about this?
Go ahead.
First of all, I don't want to add any of it, but either way, we still have 400 and change. We shouldn't add the splash pad back in. We at least have the ARPA funds for those. If we have to add something back in, we should use the ARPA funds for it, because we already used a bunch of money from ARPA already for the pool. Why not?
I will
just keep
accept
going?
Scott's friendly amendment.
So we're amending the motion on the floor to add back 625,000 versus 925,000. Paul made that motion. Scott just seconded it because I saw him nod. And all in favor of amending the amendment? We're voting on that. The motion on the floor will now be for 625 to go back into the bond.
On the motion, not whether or not that.
Correct.
Okay, then I'm
Okay, 6-0. So now we're going to discuss that. So that doesn't mean we have authorization to tell them to spend ARPA money. It doesn't mean that the splash pad would come back to us in another form. And now we have to decide if we want to pay for the 625 with the bond authorization.
I'll add one more thing. So far, the town treasurer, we've turned our money into a little over $1.5 million of revenue. It should be 1.7 that he's aiming for, which he'll make by next month. So halfway through, we've already hit our revenue goal, which will most likely double over the rest of the year, which will more than cover the $625,000. So the excess revenue that we're going to make on our own money should be able to cover this. Not should, will. So I don't see the point in paying for it for the next 20 years.
What is our potential exposure from the remaining tax appeals? We have a reserve for the current settlements,
We have
correct?
about $2 million in reserve right now for the appeals.
And the current
But
payments,
we're still paying on, over 4 years, we pay approximately $2 million on the prior appeals. And there's 21 and 22 still pending.
okay.
If I could ask a question, from someone in the audience who may know better than we do, what's the anticipated useful life of this pool once completed?
The current pool is more than 40 years old.
This will outlive the bond.
This will outlive the,
I'm not arguing against it.
okay. Okay. So it qualifies for what we would want to bond for as far as that, we bonded the rest of that project plus what they did for ARPA. So the motion on the floor is to add back 625 to the bonding authorization. Do you need a moment to discuss that, Paul? No? Okay. All in favor of amending the bond authorization amount, adding back $625,000, that's the motion on the floor, to add back in the Tashua pool to complete the project, signify by saying aye. Okay, so 5. Paul, Scott, you are, no. Okay, so now we need to vote on a new bond authorization total. So we're going to add back 625 to the 11,824,254. Can you do that math for me, please?
12,449,254, financing cost of 124,493, which I'll increase, for a net total up to the 5,000 is 12,575,000.
So the bonding authorization before you is a resolution appropriating $12,575,000 for the Trumbull Town Capital Improvement Plan for the 2024-25 fiscal year and authorizing the issuance of $12,575,000 bonds of the town to meet said appropriation and pending the issuance thereof, the making of temporary borrowings for such purpose. All in favor of the bonding amount of $12,575, signify by saying aye. 5. Scott is a no. 5-1. Okay. Moving on in our agenda. Our discussion items. I truly appreciate the patience of the Board of Education members who are here and our administrators who have stayed to have a quick discussion on the Board of Education year-end and 2023 surplus that was returned to the town. Paul Hendrickson, the business manager for the Board of Education, and Dr. Semel here, as well as the chair of the Board of Education, Lucinda Tempinelli. There was money, yes. Okay. Anybody need chocolate if there's brownies left? Hi there.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
Getting tired.
I hear you.
We start early.
So can you walk us through your year-end numbers?
Yeah.
I'll start with that and then.
Yep. Mr. Hendrickson is prepared to walk you through the year-end numbers.
Okay, as we approached the year-end, we had $710,808 in balance, and we chose to use $15,000 to transfer to the Continuing Education Special Revenue Fund to ameliorate a deficit, $160,000 to cover the deficit in the strings and band account, and $60,000 to cover deficit for our elite program. Additionally, $206,007 was dedicated to the last TD loan payment, which would have been due this year. We chose to pay it off early to avoid interest payments, and also we had signaled the board that we had anticipated doing this should we have available funds at year end. And then our year end balance was $269,801. $269,801.
Mr. Hendrickson, were there items towards the end of the year? Maria and I were talking before. Were there items that were voted to move forward with? I understand that when you get your total, that we don't have any say, but I'm just looking to get an idea of items that were not in the original budget that were purchased towards the end of the year.
No. There were not any pre-purchases or any unplanned, other than unplanned purchases relating to facilities for repairs and potentially for students moving into the district that required special ed services. There were no extraordinary expenses that we either anticipated or any other types of expenses.
Excuse me for 1 second. Good night, Keisha. Thank you. I apologize.
Can I just ask on that, what kind of work was done? You said facilities updates, or sorry, I might be misquoting you, but
No,
you had
you
to do
aren't.
work to the schools.
Yep.
That was unforeseen. What kind of work was that?
Well, Mr. Cody isn't with me right now, but there were a series of repairs that were required at the schools, approximately $287,000 and about 12 different line items.
We did a presentation about those items at one of our board meetings. There's a full list that showed the $287,000.
And the amount of the TD loans that you paid off,
The prepayment was $206,000, $206,007. That was the last payment on the TD loan. The only loan we have remaining is the Bank of America loan, which terminates in 33-34, and payments are approximately $425,000 a year.
and the Bank of America loans are the recasting of the,
Recasting of multiple facilities projects that was initiated before Dr. Semmel and I joined the district.
and the $206,000 from the TD loans was in your current budget?
Not our current budget.
Not the budget for 23-24.
Did you remove it prior to making those payments? Because it would have had to be budgeted for the current year to make the payments, right, if you didn't make them till the end of the year?
As we were recognizing how much we were going to get for the 23-24 year and started identifying possibilities for reduction, we saw paying off the TD loan as a way to mitigate reducing more staff. So we had the available balance to eliminate that loan, not reduce staff, so we did that.
How much did that save?
It was 206.
Well, that was the principal payment, right? You did it early to save on
It
interest.
saved roughly $4,100 in interest.
Do you have any other questions for them? Do you have other questions? Go ahead.
If it'll work. I just have a comment, one that I made last meeting, and you said I should mention it again. I've made it to you guys before. I just want you to know, going into budget season, I am still trying to move technology out of the Board of Ed and put it all under Town Hall, and under one facility. So I just don't want it to be a surprise again, because now it's multiple years. I've said it. That's what I'm aiming for. I'll be taking the budget, digging through it, aiming to remove that from the Board of Ed and move it over to the town side.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't agree with that, but we understand that's your position, right?
Does anybody else have any questions or comments about the year-end spend down? Okay. Thank you. I know it was a long
Thank
evening.
you.
I apologize for the wait. There were some important things we wanted to make sure we got right this evening.
Traffic
Thank
will be
you.
light.
All right, moving on, discussion on tree service. Maria? I don't know why that's on there.
Well, it's there because this board require that you get an update from the Public Works on this tree warden. It's just a report for you guys to review, and if there's any questions, then we can get back to
So
the Public Works and Parks.
Do you guys have any questions on that? Can bump that off till next month, will be okay? All right. Going to budget to actual expenditures.
Are we skipping over
Oh.
our agenda? I mean, our meeting for,
Oh, did I miss?
that's the words.
Oh, budget. Discussion of budget, I'm sorry, that's my fault. Going back to that page. I'm getting bleary-eyed. In your packet, just in front of the, just after the tree warden report, is a schedule for preliminary for budget hearings. Based on the deliverance of, the first selectman's budget is scheduled to be delivered to the Board of Finance on Monday, March 4th. Legal notice has to go to the Trumbull Times on that day as well. Thursday, March 7th, the full budget will be published in the Trumbull Times. Then we're proposing that Thursday, March 7th, in council chambers would be the first Board of Education hearing, where we look at the Board of Ed budget in detail. Then we usually have 2 full days of town department meetings. The last couple of years, we have done them by Zoom, and it seems to be a very good format. The public can follow along, and it allows us some flexibility for departments so they're not waiting in queue here. So on Tuesday, March 12th, and again on Tuesday, March 19th, you'll see a schedule of departments to meet with, and that meeting will be held via Zoom. And then we usually hold 2 public hearings. We are proposing Thursday, March 14th, to be either in council chambers at 7 p.m. or on Zoom. We're hoping to have the ability for a hybrid meeting by then. I'm not sure whether that will happen or not, so we'll make sure to update that. And then again, if we need to meet with the Board of Education for a second hearing, that would be on Thursday, March 21st. And we would have our second public hearing on Saturday, March 23rd. And our voting session on the 26th, as we discussed earlier, with an overflow date of the Thursday, the 28th, if we would need a second date to vote. We have not in recent years had to have the second session. But that availability, and then that allows Maria time to submit the budget to the town council on or before Monday, April 8th. Does that give you enough time this year, Maria? Okay. Any questions about this schedule? Any changes? Sound okay? All right. All in favor of accepting you need a motion to accept the proposed preliminary budget hearing schedule. Thank you, Scott. Thank you, Paul. All in favor? All right. And when you get your budget books, Phyllis will have page numbers and everything for us. Paginated. It's my favorite word during budget season. Okay, now we can look at budget to actuals. Maria, anything specific we should be aware of?
Nothing more than last month. The salaries should be about 42% expended. As I mentioned earlier, there are still some vacancies where there's seasonals and overtime, so we need to make those transfers at some point. I know you always look at the, on page 4, there's a workers' comp. We're up to 62% spent, but keep in mind that we pay the insurance premium up front. Even though we're self-insured, we have an excess coverage that we pay up front, and also there are some settlements that we settle some large claims. The police department, you always want to see where we are with overtime. On page 6, there's 62% spent, but the main salary full-time is only 39% spent, which means that they have enough to cover at least this overage right now.
What do you know about planning and zoning program expenses? Did they spend it all in the first half of the year?
What page are you on, Scott?
Sorry, 5 of 16.
Oh, program expenses?
They're
That-
100% spent,
Yeah,
that's why.
that has to do with, I think it's for MetroCog, we pay $10,979.
Okay.
It's
so
a
just
one-time
50%.
payment, it's a
Yep.
one-time payment. I don't have anything else unless someone has questions.
Anybody have any questions? No, looks okay. Moving on to the revenue report. Any outliers we should be aware of?
Not right now. As you can see, the interest income, obviously, it's up. It's about $1.2 million based on the October report, and the budget was $1.7 million, so 75% received. On page 2, you will see that EMS, as you know, we added more staffing, and you see that their revenue is up. Last year at this point in time was 28.7%. It's 44.6% now. Right direction. Building department, 60%. Again, that's to do with new construction and any new renovations. Parks, it's about same. You know, it's 36% last year, 37% this year.
Scott, did you and Marty have any follow-up from your meeting with Parks and Rec? Or is that for budget discussions?
That was really setting the stage for the budget discussion.
Okay, I just wanted to make
Yeah.
sure it wasn't anything we had to follow up on.
No, we didn't have any follow-up because they were just going to be a little bit more creative in what they tried to do and
Okay.
plan.
And then permitting and fees, any,
It's part of the same report. I know this board wanted 2 reports, but it's part of the main report. I just went through it, so I don't even know if you need that second report.
I think Marty had asked for that.
Yeah, it's basically a duplication.
Okay. And then our last item this evening is I need a motion to accept the minutes of our November 16th meeting. Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Scott. Any comments or corrections? If nobody has any comments or corrections, can I take these by unanimous consent? All right. What? Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I cannot take it by unanimous consent, so you missed that one on me. Sorry. I'm just tired, I'm sorry. I need the motion is to accept the minutes. I need a vote. All those in favor? There'll be 4. Anybody opposed? There'll be 0, and 2 abstentions. Thank you for keeping me honest. I'll make it through one meeting without doing that. I don't think there's anything else. Oh, I'm sorry, Maria, go ahead.
What's the plan of all these items that were taken out of the bond? Is it to come next month with a supplement, or do we wait further down to the following month? What's the plan?
Well, whatever, those design projects that whatever has to move forward, because it'll have to come to us. The town council will have the bond package at their meeting, which is a week
January.
before us,
Yeah.
and then afterwards, so that they would, anything that they want to put back into bonding, they would need a 2/3 vote if they needed to increase
so
back
we'll
to the
wait for
original
that.
thing. So we'll wait for that, and then I would have them, based on timing, George indicated that some of them would not need to come next month, but anything that's time sensitive. Our intent for all those design projects is to make sure that they move forward. It's not to get rid of the projects.
Okay.
Okay. I think so. Okay. Well, we made it before curfew. I need a motion to adjourn. Anybody not want to go home? All right. We are adjourning at 9:37.